man. They really told me to tap in. Next day I was supposed to clear and look at my account, yo.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Credit Plug channel. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about the Chase money glitch. Now, this has been going viral all over social media. So I'm going to explain exactly what's going on and what you probably should not be doing when it comes to this get rich quick scheme that's going on right now. So pretty much what this glitch is, people are writing checks to themselves essentially and depositing into their Chase account. And then what Chase usually does, or most banks, when you do a mobile deposit, they'll release a small amount initially, and then usually the remaining balance will be available in several business days. Apparently, there was some type of bug in Chase's system where they were allowing you to access this money the very next day. So what people would do, they would deposit the check and then immediately go to the ATM and withdraw as much money as possible. But this has actually started to backfire on a lot of people. Now, this was an article that was done by Fortune. Pretty much what it's saying is this viral Chase bank glitch isn't the hack that people thought it was, right? This is going back to just explain kind of how a lot of, financially desperate people are falling for a lot of these get rich quick type of schemes and scams and hacks. But before we dive into this article, I wanted to go over some TikToks that have been going viral right now and to kind of explain what's going on, right?
And I thought this whole time it was this elaborate, big scammer, like breakthrough or something like that. Turns out the whole time it's just basic check and wire fraud. So for those of you who don't know how it works, basically what these dumb motherfuckers did is they took their own Chase bank account, right? And they made a bad check, a check for like 50,000 or up that they couldn't, like they knew they couldn't cash, right? They wrote a check to themselves that they knew they could not cash. And then what they would do is they would either try and withdraw it or they would try and just wire it to another account and close their Chase bank account. These fucking idiots, bro. Like the fact that they call that a glitch is just, how in the fuck are you going to go out there and commit a federal felony and not know what what a bad check is, what wire fraud is? You thought it was a glitch. It goes to show that, that episode of South Park where they were doing the whole 9/11 conspiracy all those years ago? It was George W. Bush, the character. He was all like, well, we gotta make people believe it and all because a fourth of the U.S. population is retarded. They weren't lying. That shit's true. That shit's not fiction. That shit's for real. I truly do believe that there is a significant portion of the U.S. population that is in some way, shape, or form mentally handicapped. That is.
So I think he has a very valid point, right? And this is something I always wonder as well. I mean, even going back as far as the PPP, EIDL, unemployment that was going on, and people are in fact still getting locked up, right? There was actually a subscriber to this channel. One of their family members had reached out to me via email and were basically telling me that they just recently, this was in July of 2024, got sentenced to 148 months in federal prison. So that's about a little over 12 years. And this was for COVID, EIDL, PPP, as well as the unemployment, right? They got like $2 million or whatever. And this individual actually wound up going on the run and was finally caught and was sentenced to prison. A lot of times with these, financial schemes, it's just like low hanging fruit. It's kind of like, dangling food in front of a starving person. Even though, they may understand what the risks are, a lot of people are going about it anyways because of the financial desperation. Not to say that's excusable, right? Because breaking the law, it doesn't really matter what your circumstances were, right? The law is the law. If you break it and get caught, you will suffer the consequences. But that's pretty much what this article is talking about, how in times like these, like a lot of these viral, financial hacks, a lot of lower income, low credit are extremely susceptible to this. I see this a lot as well, just in some of the reviews we do with fintechs, banks, credit card issuers. Whenever there's like some no credit check, no documents, those videos for me at least perform really well. And we get a lot of leads for those types of like low hanging fruit types of credit products where very little qualifications to get it. And a lot of times too, like banks will reach out to me and say, hey, look, we've been getting so many applications and a lot of them are fraudulent, right? I could share with you guys emails that I've received where a lot of these companies, they basically don't want a lot of these fraudulent applications. And so if they could kind of stem the traffic from some of these different financial institutions, that's what they'll try to do, because it can overwhelm a system. Now, a big bank like Chase, which is the biggest bank in the United States, fifth largest bank in the world, they can handle stuff like this, right? Just to go over this article, right? So it says how financial stress contributes to poor decision making. I've talked about this as well, how a lot of, let's say people with bad credit, people with low income usually don't value relationships, right? So you're burning a relationship with Chase, which is the largest bank in the United States. They have a lot of influence on other financial institutions, and they're part of early warning. So for those who don't know what early warning is, so these are the biggest banks in the United States, right? So Chase being number one, I believe Bank of America is number two, Wells Fargo, I think number three, Truist is up there, I think they're number five, PNC, US Bank. So all of these are like the biggest banks in the United States. If you run off on Chase, you're not going to be able to go to Truist or PNC or Wells Fargo, right? Because you're going to be in early warning. Going back to this whole thing about relationships, right? How, a lot of lower income people don't value relationships. That's why you always have this people going from having credit, running it up, not paying it back, having to go through credit repair, just this cycle of, bad financial decisions, right? So right here it says a viral social media trend exploited a loophole for JP Morgan Chase customers to get free money at the ATM, or so they thought. The glitch involved depositing fake checks for large amounts and removing the portion of available funds before the check cleared. While this so-called glitch is essentially a form of check fraud, it demonstrates the harmful nature of viral activity combined with poor financial advice in times of financial stress or hardship. The same thing happened with PPP EIDL, right? You can submit these fake documents and get all this money. A lot of people at the time were very desperate in financial stress, and they were susceptible to this. I can guarantee you, just based off of what I've seen so far on social media, most of these financial schemes and trends are usually coming from either low income or the younger generation, younger population, right? Because a lot of them don't really know the gravity of what they're doing. They said we are aware of this incident and it has been addressed. Regardless of what you see online, depositing a check and withdrawing the funds from your account is fraud, plain and simple. Just to piggyback off of that, there were some videos online where people were saying that, oh, it's just a loan, you could just pay it back and everything's going to be good. That's couldn't be further from the truth, right? That's bank fraud, that's wire fraud. Depositing a check to intentionally defraud a financial institution is fraud, right? And again, this just highlights some of the other examples like the PPP loan schemes. There was also a Cash App scam. And I think what this article is kind of, hinting towards is that a lot of people who are falling susceptible to this is going to be financially desperate people, right? And that's something that I see as well. Right here it says the impact of financial stress on decision making. 47% of Americans say money is negatively impacting their mental health. And this is from a Bankrate survey. Financial stress specifically can induce behavior that regulates individuals' exposure to that stressor. Another thing that people were doing with this, just in the same way they were doing with the PPP, right? Obviously, like, people who scam know that it's illegal, right? And they actually prey upon people who may not know better. So the video I'm about to share with you is basically where someone was depositing checks into someone else's account, where they say, hey, look, we'll put this 50K in your account. You keep 60, you give us 40, right? And so the person who's accepting that check doesn't really know that they're going to be 100% on the hook for that, because they're doing everything through their name. And before I get into that, another reason why this is kind of like just a really stupid scheme is that when you're depositing a mobile check, first of all, the check is going to be deposited into your account, and you're going to be actually endorsing that, right? So there's so much evidence, right? So like, to defend that will be very hard, because there's going to be a digital footprint of everything that went on, right? So when you deposit a mobile check, they're logging your IP address, your device, you know, so they have all this information on that particular transaction. So it's almost like an open and shut case, right? There's very little defense that you can have in a situation like that. But let's check out this video.
Yeah, this world we live in cannot be a real fucking place. The same people that was just posting yesterday about the Chase glitch, talking about it's lit, 20K clearing, 100K clearing, is the same people today that's crying because their account was in a negative. What the fuck did y'all think was gonna happen? Why the fuck would y'all ever believe that Chase was gonna let y'all keep that money? This one girl was just on social media crying, bawling, like legit about to unalive herself. All because she did the Chase scam, aka the Chase glitch, and believed the guy, let a guy drop a check for $50,000 in her account. He gave her 40%, she took the 60%, but she initially had money in her account. She woke up this morning, now the money in her account is gone, plus the negative balance for the rest of the money that's owed. She's really on social media crying, talking about why did they take my money? I still had $4,000 that I saved up for 4 years. It took me 4 years to save that money. What did y'all think was gonna fucking happen? I'm not too sure if she thought she was gonna be like, well, listen, this isn't her savings. Her negative is just in the check-in. So let me just leave that there. No, they want their fucking money by any means necessary. I just saw the same people yesterday that was posting. They just left Gucci. They just left Louis. They just bought all this designer shit because of the Chase glitch is popping. Are the same people crying because the accounts are on the negative. Make it make sense. Like,
so yeah, that's another example of what people are doing, right? Where you're not really thinking it through just in this situation. And this is why I say this is going to be more of a low income trap, right? Because in that example that she said, you know, I'm not sure about all the details, but you know, you had $4,000 in your account, which is not a lot of money. So you're thinking, okay, let me do this scheme. My other money's not going to be affected, which, you know, as soon as you commit bank fraud, they're going to freeze your accounts, and any money that you have is basically at risk at that point.
There was a glitch going on down over there at the Chase Bank where you could just pull up and get $50,000. I don't really know the details, but I know they was going to get them racks. But what I want to know is, why was y'all putting it on social media? If the world's dumbest criminals was still a show, y'all would be stars. Please know that I was scrolling through and I screenshotted everybody who talked about it. The bitches who was talking about their baby daddy's going to get the money. I got it. We can do this the easy way. We can do this the hard way. I want my cut. Send me my cut and you good. I don't know nothing. I don't see nothing. I ain't heard nothing. If my Cash App ain't dinging in the next 48 hours, you bitches will be reported to the feds. So if y'all don't want to be eating microwave turkey and bologna for Thanksgiving this year, I suggest send the motherfucking funds.
So that's another good point, right? A lot of people posting about this, documenting it on social media. And what people don't realize is that a lot of agencies have whistleblower programs, right? So PPP EIDL, for example, had this where if you report people who are suspected of committing fraud, you actually can get rewarded. So it's like you're setting yourself up in so many different ways, engaging in this, and then especially sharing it on social media. And the crazy thing about it, like if you read through some of these comment sections, a lot of people still are trying to do this scheme, right? Like despite, you know, most of these creators talking about, you know, why you shouldn't do it, some people are still trying to figure out how to do it, which is, you know, crazy. So it seems like, you know, when it comes to the financial desperation, people throw caution to the wind. And so I feel like these type of schemes are only going to continue to get worse because a lot of people are financially desperate. Let's go to this one first.
Can you patch me into Jeremy, the CFO of Chase? Thanks. Jeremy, hey, it's Kathy over in legal. So we have a slight issue. It seems that a lot of account holders have been cashing checks that they did not have the funds to back up. And then once we grant access to that money, they are wiring it to another bank account and then closing their Chase accounts. Just kind of walking away with the cash. How do you want me to proceed? Oh, there's nothing we can do because their account is closed. No way. Okay. Even if we have their name, phone number, physical address, social security number, and direct access to the IRS and the government? Copy, there's nothing that we can do because they closed their accounts. All right. Okay, well, thanks for your time, Jeremy. Tough day to work at Chase, am I right? Yeah. All right, well, you have a good Labor Day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
So obviously this was a bit of satire, right? Basically, this is what people thought would happen, but you have to remember Chase is the largest bank in the United States and more than likely have the most capabilities of any bank, right? So as she was saying, they're going to have your first name, last name, home address, social security number, and direct access to the IRS, the government. So there's really no way around doing this and actually getting away with this. The last one I wanted to share is just a prime example of people's sort of disposition when it comes to fraud, right? Like, oh, it's not a big deal, or even justifying their financial condition as an excuse of why it's okay.
I see a lot of old heads talking about, oh, it's not a money glitch, it's just fraud. Yeah, I do understand most people do understand it's fraud. It just sounds better to say money glitch, right? All right, so cool. Now that that's out the way, let's talk about this Chase money glitch. I personally don't scam or do anything of that nature, but the people who do, I'm sure they've been doing this for some time, at least a few of them, all right? So I'm not sure what the big deal is besides the fact that, it just seemed like a large influx of people doing it around the same time. But like any great scheme, some people will inevitably be caught. We saw that with COVID and the PP loans and the Cash App Sitchy.
So I actually have to disagree with that. Now, but the Biden administration passed the Bank Fraud Harmonization Act of 2022, which basically gives, these law enforcement agencies up to 10 years to investigate and prosecute these financial crimes, right? Particularly as it relates to, the COVID PPP EIDL, but virtually any type of, bank fraud, right, is fair game. And so people who may have gotten away, like, they haven't gotten a knock yet, does not mean that they're not coming. And I was actually going to do a separate video where I was talking about one of our subscribers is serving a 12-year prison sentence for COVID EIDL loan fraud. And this was something that was done, I believe, back in like either 21 or 2020. So, they came 3-4 years later. Just because nothing's happened yet doesn't mean they're not going to, follow up on a lot of these different leads. Now, with this is a little bit more cut and dry, right? I don't really think there has to be all that much of an investigation because they're going to just check to see, okay, you deposited money in with a check where there was no money in that account, so it didn't clear. You signed it, you endorsed the check, which again, you're putting your signature on it, and it's already has your name, your account. They're logging your IP address and your device when you do that mobile deposit. And then if you actually went through the process of going to the ATM, all that information, they already have enough of what they need. So it's pretty much an open and shut. Chase is different than the SBA. I mean, Chase arguably has, just as much or possibly even more resources than the SBA. A lot of times with the big banks, they'll keep your information on file for decades, right? If you run off on Chase, American Express, Bank of America, like these institutions have a long memory. So by doing this, you're going to mess up your check systems. You're going to be an early warning. So it has sort of a domino effect. You can't really even call this a play. This is just flat out fraud. And I guess the main silver lining, I think, from all this is that, in today's digital world where information spreads so fast, especially when it comes to like financial information where people can get perceived free money or easy money, it's just a recipe for disaster. I mean, I don't think this is the last time this is going to happen. And this is just an easy way of, putting charges on people, right? Because people are still going to risk that chance, right? Like people right now just don't care. They throw caution to the wind. Like there's no real sense of consequences. And I see it a lot with younger generations. I guess, if you're a Gen Z or, in your teens, early 20s, you've probably lived in an era where there were no consequences for your actions. Any of this stuff can come back if you are involved in it. That's why I'm always preaching to have integrity. We deal a lot with just people trying to commit fraud on a daily basis through some of these different bank partnerships, affiliates. It's a big issue, right? And I think it's going to continue to get worse until they start to really make examples out of people who are doing this. But anyways, that's all for today's video. Let me know your comments and questions down below. And until next time, take it easy, and we'll talk to you soon.